Hello, I'm Sean Maiwald. I'm a graduate policy student and was an intern at CSD in fall of 2017. I want to share a policy project with you regarding early hearing detection and intervention, or EHDI, and its impact on deaf children. The idea behind EHDI is that the earlier we can identify a child as deaf, the better outcomes that child is going to have. EHDI laws apply differently across all states, but the entire U.S. was covered around 1998 to 99. Some states have passed their own laws to implement EHDI, while others rely only on hospital policies in order to achieve the same goal. This policy was developed to improve student outcomes in two areas: language development and education. Now I'll explain a little bit about the EHDI process and the timeline for that process, which is critical. In EHDI, we often talk about 1, 3, 6 timelines. Once a baby is born, at 1 month old, they must have a hearing screening. If they don't pass that screening, then at 3 months they have to have a second screening, and if they don't pass that, at 6 months they have to have a consultation with an intervention specialist who helps develop a plan for treatment and support as needed, usually an audiologist. One excellent result of EHDI is that by 2015, 98% of children in the United States had hearing screenings, which is impressive. Congress recently passed a law to improve EHDI, including one really great addition which explicitly added American Sign Language (ASL) as an education option for children in these screenings. Fixing this oversight has been a long time coming. EHDI, however, is far from perfect, and I'm going to outline 4 of the problems with the current system. First, audiologists tend to be resistant to offering ASL as a language choice. Many hang on to the antiquated idea that learning ASL will impede speech development and English literacy, which just isn't true. Consequently, these audiologists usually give far more weight to oral methods of education and support programs as compared to ASL-based interventions. Audiologists also tend to heavily prefer medical interventions like cochlear implants and hearing aids that make them money. The second problem is called loss to follow-up. 40% of children don't return for their 3 or 6 month appointments, which means they never develop a targeted intervention plan to prevent them falling behind in language acquisition. The third problem is inconsistent availability of early childhood education programs, also called Head Start programs. These programs vary greatly state to state. Fourth, prior to EHDI's inception, deaf adults averaged a 4th grade reading level, and research has shown that metric hasn't improved at all with EHDI. Now there's some newer research that helps us better understand how we can improve the EHDI program. First is what's called language deprivation research. Language deprivation for deaf children often means being denied sign language as a communication option, in the hopes that this will force them to learn spoken language. The impact of this language deprivation is profound, rippling out from the child to their family and community. Often, by the time you realize that you need an intervention for that child, it's too late because the brain is no longer as plastic as it was earlier in life. Between 0 and 3, kids have an amazing ability to acquire new languages, but later on it becomes much more difficult. There's a whole host of research that proves that bilingualism is a benefit to any child, hearing or deaf. Any child can simultaneously acquire ASL and English without any negative impact. I also want to emphasize that there's process failures and then there are professional failures at work here. Both the processes and the audiologists involved fail to get the parents the right information about their options, meaning parents aren't able to make well-informed decisions because they don't have access to the full picture. Now that I've reviewed EHDI's shortcomings, I also have 5 specific recommendations to improve it. First is to recognize the value of ASL in this system and its inherent benefits. Second, the program should focus on language acquisition rather than a child's ability to speak. EHDI programs should closely consider language deprivation and neuroplasticity research. Third, intervention programs have to provide equal support for sign language and spoken language acquisition instead of favoring spoken language. ASL support for families and communities is critical to children's success. Insurance should also equally support ASL interventions. We also need to get better data that correlates early life language acquisition with education and work outcomes later in life, rather than simply focusing on children from ages 0 to 3, as we have done. Last, parents need honest, unbiased information about language acquisition to help them understand their options rather than giving them information that is slanted one way or another, so that they can have clear expectations. We can start by supporting parents, but also by supporting the ASL programs that exist to wrap around these families, ensuring that they have not just linguistic, but also cultural content to meet their needs. Now, what can you do? You can contact your representative and your senator. Call them, email them, and talk to them about the impact of language deprivation on deaf children. Expose them to language acquisition research. You can also contact your EHDI state coordinator to see how you can get involved in helping to advocate for and provide more information about ASL. You can also help appropriately frame the experience of deaf kids and their language needs. Thank you.